I want to go over some swing trade setups that could be initiated if the proper things occur on Tuesday, which would be October 3rd. And the first thing we did was that we went through a universe of about 150 stocks and just ran them through some scans and narrowed it down to this group. The SPY is really not included. That just shows up in every scan. But what we're going to do is just pop through the list and show you some charts. And you can use your own discretion whether you think it's a good setup, not a good setup, and take action based on your own trading method. But what we did was we ran them through stock score, and that's a button that's available in Swing Master Chartist, Option Master Chartist, and it gives you a series of columns with different information. The score is the stock score, and that has really no range. It's a raw value. The higher the score, the more bullish the value, and negative values are negative for the stock. And that's more an intermediate term valuation. The swing score takes some shorter term momentum indicators, groups them together, and extracts a current swing score. And that does range between -10 for very negative and +10 for very positive. This is an interesting column. It's a relative 1% return, and over the last several months it shows what this stock would have returned relative to a theoretical investment that returned 1% annually. And then the last price, the trend filter, which shows it bullish or bearish, the CCI status, which ranges from -100 to +100 in numerical terms, and this shows you whether it's in the OB or the OS territory. And punching power is a simple division. It's the ATR, the average true range, divided by the closing price. And the higher the punching power, the more the stock moves relative to its price. So you want to trade things with high punching power, particularly if you trade options, because they can punch through strikes. And the name, obviously the name. But now let's look at some charts. And the first one is BIDU, which has the highest stock score. We ranked them by stock score. Or actually, we ranked them by swing score. But BIDU has the highest stock score. It does have the highest relative return. And here's the chart. And this is our Trading Fives Trading Oscillator chart. And I have the a format here in Heikin-Ashi, which uses 2 days of data, the high-low close data for 2 days, to draw a candle, because it's just so much easier to discern the trend. And BIDU came up on Friday scan. We executed a long today when it closed above, or went above the Heikin-Ashi body around 245. It actually gapped up and opened higher. So we were long in BIDU today, but the signals still exist and would be executed with a high above this candle's high, which is above about 248.50. And just a quick reference to the Trading Fives oscillator chart. We'll start at the bottom and move up. This is a 534 geometrically centered MACD, or actually a percentage price oscillator. And one of our primary rules is you can only buy on a green bar, you can only sell on a red bar. And generally when the bars are above the zero line, the stock is in a bullish mode, and when they're below the zero line, it's in a bearish mode. But what happened, we've had 3 days of up momentum. We have the stochastic RSI coming out of an oversold condition, moving up toward an OB position, and we have a price breakout, in this case above the fractal range. And what these two numbers are these are the most recent fractal low and high, and the plum colored box just shows the fractal range, and that just makes it easier to see if you have a breakout of the fractal range or if you're just mucking around inside of it. But BIDU is still on a still on a buy signal. The next one we're going to look at is AKS Steel. And AKS, it's coming, the oscillator is coming up from below zero, but we have two green bars, and the green bars indicate that that the oscillator is moving higher than the preceding bar, and a red bar naturally indicates that it's moving lower than the preceding bar. So we have momentum moving higher, still below zero. Stochastic RSI coming out of an OS zone. We're still within the fractal range, but based on the oscillator and the momentum change, we did take a long in AKS above the fractal body, about 550 or so. But this buy signal is still active, and it will go into effect with a close or a daily high above the 586 level. The third one was CSIQ, and CSIQ is above the zero line on the oscillator. We have three higher bars. We're coming out of an oversold zone, and we did have a fractal breakout on on Friday. And right now we have a Heikin-Ashi doji, but this buy signal would execute with a move above the fractal high at 1679. And here we have the NASDAQ 100 QQQ. The oscillator crossed from below zero to above zero, which is a signal bar signal, and just even operating only on that, we would take a buy of the QQQ with a move above 145.52 tomorrow. Disney is almost breaking out of the fractal range. We had a oscillator up bar, and we're already in the OB territory. So for Disney, we would have to see a move above 99.74 tomorrow. Preferably one that would want to execute probably later in the day to make sure it held, because we're already in the OS or the OB zone, but it can stay there for quite some time. XME, the metals and mining spider. We had a cross from below zero to above zero, which makes this a signal bar on its own. And we would look to go long XME, probably in this case above the fractal range 3289. AGN, Allergan PLC. And we have a oscillator below the zero line. So this isn't a tremendous first class buy, but we have the oscillator or the stochastic RSI moving out of the OS range. So we would be looking for Allergan, if not tomorrow, then in coming days, for a buy, and that would require a price above the fractal range of 217. JCPenney has a very negative stock score, and it's negative swing score, and naturally it's bearish. and we had the oscillator just moving below zero. So JCPenney is on a sell, and in this case I think our preference would be to sell calls rather than buy puts, because we already moved down substantially today. Not that we can't go further, but I think this is a good candidate to sell calls on. We have WRK, WestRock, and WestRock is also on a sell, but we would require in this case a break below 58.51. We selected it because we're coming out of an overbought zone, and we've had three oscillator bars in a row to the downside. But again, in this case, we require the move below 58.51 before we'd execute a signal. US Steel X. This is a long trade. We've had four oscillator bars up. We're coming out of a deep OS zone. We're still within the fractal range, but we would have executed buys here and here, so the next buy zone or the next buy signal will be above the 25.83, and particularly if it gets above 26.47. But for steel, we'd be looking for a buy above 25.86. Starbucks is on a sell. It broke below the fractal range. It's coming out of an overbought area, and we've had three oscillator bars in a row red, and we just crossed below the zero line. So Starbucks would be a sell below 53.39, but again, you're moving into what has been a support area. This may also be a good candidate to initiate a call right at the 55 or 56 strike. We have JWN Nordstrom, which had a big down bar today. Took it through the fractal range, and even though it's a big bar today, we would look for additional positions or to initiate a new short position with a break below the 44.45 price level. And again, this would be another good candidate, I think, to sell calls if you were concerned about it hitting support at this price area around the 43.70 area. And the last one on the list is WDC, Western Digital. And Western Digital broke through the bottom of the fractal range. We have the oscillator already below zero, and the stochastic RSI is already in the oversold zone. So with support area 78.52 still 4 points below, we would be looking to take a long position or add to our long position below 84.12 tomorrow from the open. So that was a quick look through the different stock scores, through the different symbols that we looked at, and I hope you got something worthwhile and useful out of it.